South Texas is a place of stories. It glistens in the water and moves through the wind, where art does not just capture the outdoors, it helps protect it, and where the land speaks to those willing to listen. Few have given that voice a canvas more faithfully than artist Clemente F. Guzman III, recipient of the 2026 Harvey Weil Morehead Legacy Award. Raised in Texas, Clemente spent his earliest years in Doss before growing up in San Antonio in a family of 9 surrounded by the outdoors. His father, a cowboy for the Corsac family, and his mother, a lifelong lover of nature, shaped the way he saw the world. Fishing trips along the river, collecting earthworms after the rain, weekends spent outside paying attention. As Clemente would later reflect, it all began with learning to slow down and notice. Clemente showed an early gift for art. In high school, classmates and teachers saw it right away. His wildlife paintings stood apart. But it was a chance encounter in Minnesota that changed everything. A stranger who had seen his work offered to introduce him to a wildlife artist, Mario Fernandez. Inside his studio were dozens of large paintings, bald eagles locked mid-flight, frozen in motion. For a young artist who had never imagined painting could be a career, that was overwhelming. Standing there, he realized this was his path. He went home and started painting. Through a scholarship from the Migrant Council, Clemente enrolled in Mankato Technical Institute in Minnesota, where he studied commercial art and learned to work across mediums: pen and ink, watercolor, acrylic, and color illustration. After graduating, he returned to San Antonio and began freelancing for advertising agencies, refining his technique and continuing to grow. His next step would define the next 3 decades. A client who believed in him made a call on his behalf to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. There was no opening at the time, but Clemente reached out anyway, asking for nothing more than a portfolio critique. She said yes, and when she saw his wildlife work, she invited him to apply for an upcoming position. Out of nearly 70 applicants, he was the one selected, and in 1988, at just 20 years old, Clemente Guzman began his career at Texas Parks and Wildlife. When Clemente arrived, there wasn't a computer in the building. Every layout was drawn by hand. Over time, his work became part of everyday Texas life. He created more than 30 collector's edition game stamps, hunting and fishing permits that became prized in their own right, along with posters, magazine covers, and illustrations that brought Texas to life for generations. He also built the department's art archive, preserving years of work so future designers could always find what they needed. And his work traveled even further, through 6 conservation license plates still seen across Texas today, including Lucifer hummingbird and Texas rivers. But the work always began outside. For a freshwater trout stamp, Clemente traveled to Canyon Lake, studying the cypress trees, the rushing water below the dam, and children fishing along the banks. He returned and painted a rainbow trout leaping after a mayfly, a fleeting moment made permanent. By the time he left, nearly 30 years later, he was the last illustrator still standing. For Clemente, painting is not just technical, it's spiritual. When he steps into the landscape, he's looking for something specific: design, the formation of rocks, the shape of leaves. He describes it as energy, something the land gives, not something he creates. It comes to him, and he translates it. Over time, his talent became deservingly recognized. Clemente became a multi-year winner of the Tejano Conjunto Festival poster competition. In 2012, he won the California Upland Game Bird Stamp Art Contest. In 2021, he was selected as the Texas Book Festival Artist. And in 2023, he was named Texas State Parks Centennial Artist, recognized by a resolution from the Texas Senate. His work traveled across the state in the art of Texas State Parks, a centennial celebration, and continues to appear in books, exhibitions, and collections. Clemente's connection to the land doesn't end at the canvas. Behind his work is Gabriela, his wife and constant partner. Together, they tend the land they love. From Yanawana Camp in San Antonio to 30 acres near Bracketville, home to painted buntings, wild turkey, bobcats, and more. There, they study the land, work alongside biologists, and build something lasting. Clemente's connection to Texas is rooted in generations who walked this land before him. Through his family's history, he traces descent from Spanish explorers, Alonso de Leon and Diego Ramon, early founders of Texas settlements. And through DNA, he carries Lipon Apache and Coahuiltecan ancestry, including descent from Lipon Apache chief Cuelgas de Castro, a Texas Ranger who counted Sam Houston and Stephen F. Austin among his friends. But when asked who shaped him most, Clemente doesn't hesitate. It was his mother, a woman who found exceptional peace in nature and passed that way of seeing on to her son. He knows what it means to receive that gift, now as a father himself. Watching his son, Clemente Guzman IV, carry his own path forward with quiet dedication, he understands what it means to pass it on. And with his current work illustrating a children's book on Coahuiltecan creation, that circle widens. Napaco, our journey recently completed, is an invitation for the next generation to see the land not as something to use, but something to care for. He is also currently working on a new project, a book on Texas ranches and conservation, in collaboration with Texas A&M University Press and the Texas Agricultural Land Trust, set to be published in 2028. For his lifelong dedication to art, conservation, and the enduring spirit of Texas, the Rotary Club of Corpus Christi proudly honors Clemente F. Guzman III as the 2026 Harvey Weil Morehead Living Legacy of the Year.